What about this new program, this bank term funding program that basically removes the interest rate for these banks, right? Could that be another source of demand? Why wouldn't these banks pile into treasuries now that it doesn't really matter that they can just access this facility? It's supposed to be temporary for a year, but we all know how temporary these government programs are. Do you guys think that could lead to a source of demand for these treasuries?
Well, it certainly de-risks them, right? So now they don't have to actively manage it, they don't have to hedge it, et cetera, if the Fed's going to guarantee that. Um, it's interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. Just when it looks like the Fed is backed into a corner, they pull some other magic trick out there, out the hat, right? It's where
Hmm.
a lot of these analysts like Harry Dent. Uh, I think his research is amazing. I think he's right. What he's been wrong about is he just continues to not see these magic tricks and how they keep coming. But yeah, I mean, if they de-risk that situation for banks, I mean, why wouldn't banks do that? To your point, it's only a year, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, it probably goes permanent, I guess. I mean, ultimately, I mean, if we want to kind of zoom out, where does this all go? I mean, the Fed's going to backstop everything, and we're all just going to have accounts
Yep.
with the Fed. I mean, that's where it's going, right?
Yeah. US has a huge advantage in that the rest of the world, or most of the world, is having bigger issues with their financial system. And most of the world were lending in dollars. That's the whole concept of the euro dollar. Euro dollar has nothing to do with euros. It's basically dollars outside of the US and all the loans denominated in dollars outside of the US. And he's blowing up that whole thing. This is why most of the currencies are crashing against the dollar. And this is what makes Balaji's bet a little bit crazy, in that I'm expecting the US dollar to strengthen over the next several years, not because the United States dollar is so great, but because it's usually compared against other Western countries, which are in significantly worse shape with a lot bigger problems, from inflation to being self sustained to them printing an unreasonable amount of money to fund all of their government programs, not to mention them lending out in dollars constantly, and now that interest rate is rising. And they can't print like as many US dollars like the US can. So I'm not expecting the collapse of the US financially anytime soon. I'm expecting completing the collapse in Europe first. Europe, Japan, Canada. I think those countries are going to go down first before the US finally does. That's kind of my view on it. So the US is still not in as bad a shape as some of the other places.
I would agree with that. I just put a video of Janet Yellen on my Instagram account about an hour ago, where she was just saying, "Look, the U.S. financial system is still the strongest and best financial system in the world." And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, what are you comparing it against? The other financial systems? That's not saying a whole lot. So to Tone's point, that's exactly what she was saying. It's the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry, or whatever, as we say. And I would also agree. What makes it interesting is the rise of the BRICS, and what's potentially going to happen there, right? President Xi from China was just in Russia this week. Yesterday, I think they kind of announced,
Still there. Three days, which
oh,
is
okay, yeah,
a
he's still
long
there.
time.
And
Did you guys read that letter, Mark? Did you read that letter that she wrote?
was it today? Yesterday?
I think it came out yesterday, but it was basically how Russia and China are friends, and it was very, very accommodative to Russia, and I think it spoke volumes about their relationship.
I didn't see that, but there's a whole lot to unpack there. I think that's super that's super interesting. In a video I did in the last couple of weeks, I'm trying to find it here real quick. There was a video that came out. I'm sorry, not a video. There was a letter that basically the Chinese, the PBOC, or the CCP put out, and it was a letter, and it basically said, the United States is a terrorist organization. I mean, that they didn't say that exactly, but they said that the United States uses their dollar to practice colonialism all over the world. They said it costs 17 cents to print a $100 bill, but yet another nation has to come up with $100 worth of goods to get that bill. They said that They said that the U.S. has been behind every single color revolution since 2003, and they listed them all off. I mean, they came hard, and this was the official Chinese government, and it went out to the rest of the world, kind of put them on blast. So They need Russia to succeed. If Russia falls, China is left dangling on their own, right? And so, of course, they're gonna band together, and that's something definitely to pay attention to.
The geopolitical situation is really interesting. I was not big into geopolitics until more recently, and now it basically dominates what I'm reading every single morning. The relationship between China, Russia, India, and then how countries like Iran, North Korea, the Middle East, and Turkey fall into it. And it's horrible for the US because they're just aren't I don't know. There has seemed to be terrible at diplomacy over the last several years. Meanwhile, you have Russia brokering peace between Turkey and Syria. You have China brokering peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And this is really unprecedented. Uh, India and
Yeah.
China are going to work out their small differences. Uh, the West seems to think that there's these major obstacles between a lot of these countries. And these are actually small obstacles that these other countries are resolving between each other because they're all finding common ground that the US is their mutual enemy. And this is the real danger for the United States. Diplomacy right now is being won by the BRICS, and their payment system, their competitor to SWIFT, is coming online fairly quickly. They're going to add a lot more countries into it. Brazil is, I mean, I wasn't happy about the way the election in Brazil went, but it's going to stay the course with the BRICS. Mexico just announced they want to try and get into the BRICS, which caught me
That's
by
bad
surprise.
news.
I didn't think Mexico would have the stones to make that announcement.
Wow.
The
But
U.S. cannot allow Mexico to go with the BRICS. The U.S. has to
Yeah.
hold on to that.